Hello, this is Joshua for Frost Dragon Designs, and today I'd like to talk to you about my Frost Knight hard enamel pin. So this pin is part of my Black Cat RPG collection that I've been building over the past couple years. So far, there are almost 100 pins in this collection, spanning 3 big Kickstarters and 1 smaller Kickstarter for a limited edition pin. I'm working on setting up my 4th big Kickstarter, Series 4, for a little later on this year, but I have a lot of other fun designs in my sketchbook that don't necessarily fit in a big campaign like that. So I thought, well, why not just start releasing these throughout the year? So the plan is, each month in 2023, I'm going to release a new standalone Black Cat RPG design, and we're starting with the Frost Knight. So let's get into the design. So here is the sketch that I started with for the Frost Knight. The idea is that he's supposed to be a heroic knight, sword and shield, armor. But what I really wanted to do with this was make him a Frost Knight, not a regular knight. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to be able to use the Frost Dragon Designs shield logo as his shield. That was literally the main reason that I was doing this design in this way. You can see I started off by grabbing some pieces of another pin that I've already designed. I do this frequently. It saves time. What it looked like we grabbed some pieces from the Series 2 Monster Hunter pin, mostly because I just needed a quick head, a quick sword, and an armor base to work off of. And that pin had all of the components that I would have wanted to work with. Now, I'm working on the helmet here, kind of making a big jewel in the front. It's going to be kind of spiky looking with his ears, as well as it's kind of like a crown-like helmet. I will admit that I guess some parts of this concept kind of came from the World of Warcraft Lich King aesthetic. He's a knight and, kind of blue colors as well. He's a lich, as the name sounds like. But that wasn't completely the inspiration. You can see when I'm working on the sword here, what I'm doing, I changed the color to a nice blue color. And the idea of what I wanted for this sword, I wanted it to look crystalline or ice-like. You can see there was a time jump there. There are a couple time jumps you'll notice in this video. When I was recording this, there were just a couple times where I sat down to do, work on it, and I forgot to hit the record button in the software that I use to record when I'm working. This particular video is sped up, I want to say 16 times the actual speed. So you can imagine, yes, it takes quite a while, but part of that is because I'm just a terribly slow artist. So please try not to mind the time jumps in the video itself. But you can see, from the sketch and from what I've started working on here, the kind of look that I was going for is, sword raised, cape flowing out behind him heroically. This is kind of like, you'd see a scene like the hero standing on a cliff. I always wonder where they find all these cliffs to stand heroically on. But, that's kind of the whole pose and bravado that I was going for here. He's supposed to feel heroic, imposing, and like he's, he's what's standing between evil and, I guess evil's goal. So you can see what I'm working on in the video now is the actual Frost Dragon Designs logo. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to handle this. That logo is a shield with a snowflake on it. And that snowflake actually has a fair amount of detail that would be terribly difficult to replicate in pin form. So I clean it up a little bit as best I can. And for a lot of this video, I kept it with a gold line around it, a metal line around it. And I was just thinking, well, maybe they'll be able to produce this by, filling that in with enamel. At some point in the video, I switch over to the idea of filling the shield white and then letting them screen print the blue aspect of the logo. And that's what I ended up doing on the physical pins, and it worked out really nicely. You saw right there, I very briefly had the colors inverted on the shield logo, where I had the snowflake being blue and the field behind it being white. I didn't care for that. So I switched it back to this way. And I think it just works really well. I think it worked well using the screen printing technique. I've used that a couple times on pins that have really small detail, like my delivery raven. There's also another delivery pin coming up in 2023 that I can't tell you about that uses screen printing. It's a little more expensive, but it really works well for tiny details that I need to get into a pin design. Also for this pin, something that you'll notice is, I'm working the lines in this as the gold color that I normally would work for the metal lines. But in the physical pin, there's silver. This is the only Black Cat RPG pin that I have released to date that uses silver as the metal color instead of gold. It's not so much that I thought the gold wouldn't work, because honestly, I've gotten very used to gold metal lines. I think they look good in a variety of color schemes. I just thought that for this specific pin, that silver would really work better. The whole theme is blues. It's and blues and whites and grays, and it's ice and cold. And gold colored metal just felt a little too warm to me for this specific design. So that's why I went with silver for this. The reason I don't use silver color a lot on my pins is, for whatever reason, during the manufacturing process, the silver metal pins always end up with a duller enamel, the colored part. It's never as shiny, it's never as glossy. It always has a more matte finish to it than the gold metal plating. I don't know why that is. I think it's because they put some sort of a clear coat over top of the gold metal plating pins to keep that from tarnishing, that they don't need to do necessarily on the silver ones. And I've asked about it several times, and I think, due to maybe some miscommunication, they don't quite understand what I'm asking about. But that's why I prefer the gold. I like the warmth it gives, and the pins just turn out shinier. You can see here in the design, I was working on trying to make that big gem in his helmet a little more crystalline, like I did with the sword. I ended up not liking that, so I brought that back to just being a single color for that big gem on his forehead. But what I did end up doing, if you see one of these pins in person, or maybe you could see it in the photo early in this video, I have parts of the sword, as well as the gems on his belt and shoulder areas and on his head. I had those done in a transparent blue enamel. It's really pretty in person in bright lighting. Like if you're in the sunlight, it's really got a gem quality to it. And I thought that was a good way to translate what I wanted for this pin. So it's actually got a couple features that most of my pins do not. It's got screen printing, it's got silver metal, and it's got transparent enamel to give kind of a gem-like quality to the sword and to the actual gems on the costuming. So overall, I think this design came together really nicely, and I think it's a great way to open this aspect of the Black Cat RPG project, these monthly standalone pins. If they do well, and if I, continue to have sketches that, I don't necessarily think would go in a bigger project, I'm going to keep releasing these. I think they're really fun, and it allows me to have a lot more room for creativity and doing things that don't necessarily adhere to what you would have come to expect in one of my bigger campaigns. So thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead, like and subscribe. I have a lot more pin videos planned for this year. I'm going to be doing the design insights for all of Series 4 as videos. I'm going to have videos for each of these standalone Black Cat RPG pins. I'm going to have videos for the design process of all of the Cute Cat Pin Club pins for 2023, as well as a handful of other designs that I plan on releasing later this year. So thank you so much, and have a great day.